Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 78, Meno 70c to 71a. So far, Socrates hasn't explicitly answered Meno's question. He hasn't given one of the options that Meno gave him, whether arete is teachable or exercisable, or comes to humans by nature or by some other way. Instead, so far as Meno is concerned, Socrates has been praising Thessalians, and Meno is a Thessalian. This may be the main reason why Meno hasn't reacted so far to anything that Socrates has said. And Socrates does seem to be trying to get Meno to react despite him not choosing one of Meno's options. He begins by implying that people can be good through learning and teaching, and through exercise, and by nature, and probably by some other means as well. All of this in Socrates' praise of Thessalians, who are well reputed for horsemanship and wealth. In the same complex sentence, Socrates then says that the Thessalians are also well reputed for sophia. This is a strange statement, considering that the Thessalians are already sophoi in horse breeding. They are experts. Meno should have reacted to this strange statement, but he didn't. It's as if he understands what Socrates means. Socrates does indeed explain that the new sophia is in Thessaly because of Gorgias, the sophist. He can teach people to appear to be wise, because wise people are expected to be able to answer any question about which they are knowledgeable, and Gorgias teaches people to be able to answer any question at all, so they would appear to be sophoi in everything. Socrates surely expected a reaction from Meno when he said that Meno's lover Aristippus, together with all the other foremost of the Thessalians, is a lover of Gorgias's sophia, which means that Gorgias' sophia should be considered by Meno to be a rival for Aristippus's affections. Since Meno does appear to think that Gorgias has this sophia, and that the Thessalians do deserve to be considered sophoi, Socrates proceeds to make Gorgias the fount of all sophia. Enthadede o Philemenon to enantion periesteken. But here, O dear Menon, the opposite has come about. We could translate that as the circumstances are quite the opposite. In other words, in Attica, nobody can answer anybody's questions. Hosper ochmos tiste sophias gegonen, kai kintonue ektondeton topon par humas oichestai he sophia. Just as some sort of drought of the sophia has come about, and the sophia happens to have left these parts and gone to you, Thessalians. In other words, people in Attica were able to answer any question anybody wished to ask, but now they can't, while in Thessaly, people now can. And we may ask what would have caused that, and the obvious answer is Gorgias. Gorgias, who's the source of all sophia, like a water cellar dishing out water, allowed the foremost of Attica to be able to answer any question anybody wished, but now he's gone to Thessaly. Therefore, in Attica, people can no longer answer any question anybody wishes to ask, just as when the water cellar moves from one place to another, the people who formerly had water and were not thirsty are suddenly thirsty. They have a drought of water, and here of sophia. This ties in nicely with Meno's view of abstracts as things, just as arete he considered to be something teachable or something exercisable. Now Socrates is treating sophia as something sold by Gorgias to a thirsty audience, and now he's not in Attica. The people in Attica cannot answer questions, while the people in Thessaly are lucky enough now to be able to buy the sophia Gorgias dishes out, and they are able to answer any question anybody wishes to ask. Meno should have said something by this point, because by this logic, Meno himself is unable to answer questions because he's not in Thessaly at the moment. And indeed, Meno began the dialogue by asking a question. If he were to think about the implications of what Socrates is saying, Meno should have realized that he must appear to Socrates as someone lacking sophia, someone who seems not to know anything. Meno should also understand by this time that Socrates won't have an answer, because Socrates as well is in Attica, not in Thessaly. Meno won't react to this obvious conclusion until Socrates spells it out, and it takes a while before Socrates gets there. Egun tina etheles hutos eresthaiton enthade, udes hostis ugelasetai kai ere, o xene, kindoniosoi docen makariostis enai, aretengun ete didacton, et hoto troppo paragignetai denai, ego de tosuton deo, et didacton et me didacton e denai, host ude auto hoti potesti to parapan arete tunchano e dos. If at any rate you want one of the locals to answer in this way, there's no one who won't laugh and say, "Oh, Xenos, I happen to seem to you to be someone blessed." To know at any rate whether arete is something teachable or whether it comes to be in some way, I am so far from knowing whether it is something teachable or not teachable that I happen not to know this: what on earth arete is at all. To parapan I've translated as at all. I could have said entirely, completely, absolutely. It's a very extreme statement that Socrates has absolutely no idea at all what arete itself is. In other words, he doesn't even know that it's a characteristic of something good. Before we jump to saying that this is Socrates wisely acknowledging his ignorance, we should realize that this follows from his argument. Because Gorgias is now in Thessaly and no longer in Attica, there is no way that Socrates can answer Meno. And we should forget for a moment that Socrates is answering Meno, but he's not answering what Meno wanted to hear. Socrates is not choosing one of the options Meno gave him. We might think that this itself is now an answer. Socrates is saying that he has absolutely no idea what arete is, and yet Meno is apparently still waiting for Socrates to choose one of the options because he doesn't react. I should also say here that Socrates referred to Meno as Xenos. A Xenos is a guest friend, someone who is either a host or a guest of someone from another polis. Two people from different polis make a mutually beneficial pact between themselves to look after each other in each other's city, because when a citizen of one city goes to another city, he loses all the rights of his native city, and he needs protection. And that protection is provided by his xenos in the other city. And then he will do the same when that xenos comes to his city. He will be his xenos there. Thus, the same person is a xenos in his own city as the host, or a xenos in the other city as the guest of whoever hosts him there, but is the guest of him in his city. Xenia, guest friendship, is such an important relationship which should not be broken ever, that the god in charge is Zeus himself, Zeus Xenios. Readers of the time would already have deduced that Meno was a xenos in Athens, because he's a Thessalian aristocrat. If he's in Athens, then naturally he is the xenos of someone. The fact that Socrates refers to him now as xenos means that we will find his xenos, his host, later in the dialogue. This is just an introduction to the fact that he is a xenos. It's important for the dialogue. That's the reason why Plato has Socrates mention that Meno is a xenos, but Socrates says, "O xenos," to refer to Meno as a stranger, someone who doesn't know that this is the state of affairs in Athens. It's so bad in Athens that were Meno to ask anyone in Athens, just as he is now asking Socrates, who is an Athenian citizen, they would all laugh and say that they are so far from knowing what sort of thing arete is that they don't even know what arete itself is. And this is interesting because Socrates doesn't laugh. He doesn't say what he says any other citizen would say. And even here, Meno should have reacted, but he didn't. There are so many things that Socrates is saying which are inconsistent or absurd, and yet Meno doesn't react. It sounds like Meno either accepts everything that Socrates is saying because it makes logical sense to him, or because he is unable to draw conclusions, which is a feature of a dialectician, and Meno is obviously not a dialectician. Notice that Socrates has added for Meno's benefit that anyone he asks would laugh at him. Laughing, as we've already seen in other dialogues, is a feature of eristics. So this is tantamount to saying, Meno, you would look stupid. Luckily for Meno, he's asking Socrates.